What's going on, guys? My name is WOLFWILL and welcome back to another video. Whether it is your first time here or you are a returning viewer, I hope you're all having a great day or a great night so far. So today's video, once again, we're jumping right back into the Spyro 4 bandwagon because recently I have been thinking about some things that, in my personal opinion, Spyro 4 definitely would need, and I reckon some of you guys, or perhaps the majority of you, might have some similar opinions, or you might have some different opinions, which of course all are completely welcome. And with that, let's get into it. So basically, I have come up with a brief top 5 list, including a little bonus that I will be mentioning towards the end, so be sure to stick around for that because I think it'd be a nice little detail to have for this game. So I think, to begin with, one of the biggest things that I think Spyro 4 really needs, that I think would really kick off, is the ability of flight. So as we know, in the first 3 classic games, Spyro sort of can fly. Well, I mean, most of the time he glides. The only time he flies is basically either with a power-up, which you see the majority of these in Ripto's Rage, or in any of the Speedway levels. And then including, say, Nasty's loot at the very end of the first game, where you will actually be able to have unlimited flight. So I think what they should do with Spyro 4, if it of course happens, is Spyro should actually learn to officially fly, and without the need of a power-up or to be in a Speedway level. So perhaps what could happen is at the start of the game he can only glide still, just as we all know from the classic games, but then as the game progresses, he'll actually be able to learn how to fly, and he can have some of his mentors to teach him how to do so. I'm not exactly sure how that would work out, but I think it would be a nice little touch, especially to the fans, because, I mean, Spyro is a dragon. He should be able to fly by his own free will. And by my memory, the first time Spyro actually gets unlimited flight, like officially, isn't until 2008 for The Legend of Spyro Dawn of the Dragon, whereas Spyro and Cinder, you get unlimited flight. So that was by far one of the best things ever in a Spyro game, was you actually got to fly, and it was so much fun. And then of course, the ability to fly will actually go towards, say, if you need to get to a certain area but you can't reach it yet, or perhaps for some other challenges, so it all links in the end. Now, coming in at number 2 on this list are character choices. Now, what I mean by this is that obviously in Year of the Dragon, you had the ability to play more than just Spyro, because of course you had Sheila, you had Bentley, you had Agent 9, and you had Sergeant Byrd. I think what they should do for Spyro 4 is basically the same concept again, and that's because there will be certain places where you will need a certain character to be able to pass it, and this is exactly what happened with Year of the Dragon, was that there were certain sections for the other 4 characters that obviously Spyro couldn't do, but the others had to do instead. But when we think about it, if we had to stick to, say, 3 characters, I think it should be Spyro, Hunter, and Bianca. The reason why I'm suggesting these 3 is because from Enter the Dragonfly, which is currently the original sequel to Year of the Dragon, you had the 3 of them in that game. Bianca helped you a lot, and the same thing as Hunter. I don't recall ever being able to play those 2 in that game though. I think the first time you actually get to play Hunter isn't until A Hero's Tale. I might be wrong because I've not been able to play every single Spyro game yet, but that comes to mind. But of course, we've talked about in previous concepts how Cinder could potentially be in this game overall, and that still would be really cool. The way they introduce her, there's obviously multiple ways they could do so, but yeah, we have a lot of opportunities there, so let's just put it that way. But following on from character choices, this is where we get into number 3, which is customization. So when it comes to this, if we go back to say Crash 4, which is now the new sequel to Crash 3 Warped, you were able to have customization for both Crash and Coco, and to get these outfits, you basically had to fully complete each of the levels with like all the collectibles and so forth. I'm assuming that's what it was, because I haven't played the game in a while, but I should play it again. But the point is that I think they could go for a similar mechanic in Spyro 4, or perhaps they do it a different way, but there will have to be some way to get the skins. Like, they're not just going to all be available at once, but I reckon you could definitely have a lot of customization options for Spyro, and then the same thing can go towards Hunter and Bianca if you were able to play them. Even Cinder. I'm not sure if we would have like Bentley, Sergeant Bird, Sheila, and Agent 9 in this game. Maybe they could come back in a future game, but I think if we really had to stick to a core 3 or even a core 4, it should be Spyro, Cinder, Hunter, and Bianca. That's just my opinion, but you never know. Anything can happen, like anything's possible at this point, but I think customization would allow for fans to have their own looks and just sort of expand on different appearances, essentially, because I had a lot of fun with those in Crash 4, and then Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart did the exact same thing as well, where you could have different armor pieces, so there's a lot of options you've got there. Now, following on from number 3, we get to number 4, which I have titled A Glimpse of Opportunities. Now, what I mean by this is we have been talking about the whole multiverse concept in a lot of videos, and as we know, Crash 4 sort of dealt with the multiverse as it is, and the same thing as Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. So if we look at Crash 4, for example, they traveled to different timelines. So they found Tawna from a different time, and then they even went back in time at the very end, and of course we know Crash became who he is today because of a time paradox he created himself. If you didn't know that, which is actually pretty surprising, I was bloody surprised by that. That was really, really cool. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense too. But I think Spyro 4 could definitely have a similar approach. So to expand on this, we've obviously talked about the Legend of Spyro version, and maybe even stretch it to the Skylanders Spyro, because I mentioned that potentially the 3 Spyros could somehow come together. But I would not stretch it too far for Spyro 4. Like, Spyro 4 needs to be a core Spyro game still, like classic Spyro, and not all over the place, because we don't want to go too far with this, rather the developers, but perhaps we might be able to get a glimpse of potential, say, like spin-offs or sequels, remakes. Anything is possible. And then it's the same thing with Cinder. Like, if we get Cinder involved, I mentioned in a previous video if Cinder should possibly get her own game. So there is a lot of opportunities here, and I think a lot of them sound pretty promising, if I'm being honest. But then we get to number 5, which is something like, this is going to happen, so this is going to be very brief, but it is going to be a direct sequel to the classic trilogy. So we know Crash 4 was a direct sequel to Warped, and they obviously referenced the events. Literally, the start of Crash 4 is Uka Uka, Cortex, and Entropy trapped in that realm that they got stuck in at the end of Warped, and then of course they escaped. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is a similar thing, so it is a sequel to the original Ratchet & Clank, or rather the 2016 adaptation of it. So basically, Spyro 4 should be able to reference what happened in, say, Year of the Dragon, which was the recent events, because of course you're going to have Bianca involved, so therefore you should be able to reference that. And then same thing with, say, referencing Spyro 1, because you guys know there's that giant door literally where you first spawn in Spyro 4, if you look behind you, there's the giant door. I feel like there should be something to deal with that, because I actually mentioned in my one of the videos where I talked about how Cinder could get introduced, perhaps that door could have something to deal with leading to Cinder. I don't know, there's a lot of options here, but I think as long as they can reference what has happened in past events, it would make a lot of sense. And then basically, the reason why Spyro 4 is happening is because of the lead up of previous events. So it just makes sense to me. But with that, those are the top 5 things that come to my mind that I think Spyro 4 definitely needs to look at having. But then this is where I get to the little bonus that I mentioned, which I titled Retro Nostalgia. So what I mean by this is, if we look back at Crash 4, during the End Trophies boss fight, literally as you're starting the mission, or like the whole level in general, you're playing as Crash and you're sliding on a very long beam in like a multiversal tunnel. And if you get all the Wumpa Fruit, classic Crash comes up on screen. So what I think could be really cool for Spyro 4 is you actually get a glimpse of his retro self, like the PS1 version is what I'm talking about, like that polygon Spyro from the PS1. That would be really cool to see. It'd be a nice little bit of nostalgia for long-time fans, definitely for me as well, because yeah, it's just something I thought would be really cool, and I think you guys would love that too. But yeah, so that's basically all I've got to say for this. It's just something that came to my mind recently, and I think these would be really, really cool to see if Spyro 4 was to go in this direction, if it is happening, of course. But yeah, so thank you guys so much again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do have your own thoughts as well, you can be sure to let me know down below in the comments, because I'm always happy to talk to you guys about these things. And of course, we do have a Discord server as well. You will be able to find the link in the description below. And yeah, so thank you again, guys. And of course, once again, if you are new to the channel and you like what you see, then be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications to get notified of all of my uploads. And with that, I hope you guys have a great day or a great night.